Welcome to the Emby Show. It's been a while. We've been pretty busy recently. A new Windows app is coming, which is taking months of work. 2 new plugins are coming as well. All good subjects for future episodes. But none of them has surfaced yet, which caused that long gap between Emby Show episodes, for which I apologize and promise for aiming at a high frequency in the future. Yet recently I found some time to do a few updates to the Windows Media Center UI, some of which you've been asking for specifically, and that's what this episode is about, updates to the Windows Media Center UI. I think this is gonna be a great episode as it's all about visual stuff, so there's going to be a lot to see, kind of remedy for hearing me talking. For those of you who haven't heard about the Windows Media Center UI before, that's a special Emby client application which closely resembles the user interface of Windows Media Center and aims to bring the same experience, both visually and operationally, to your devices at home or on the road, with a focus on TV viewing experience just like Windows Media Center. As of now, June 2024, there are 3 ways to access the Windows Media Center UI. There's a Windows application, we have an Android application, and there is a web application which runs in most browsers and can also be installed as a progressive web app on supporting devices. If you want to check that out, the starting point for all of these is https WMC Emby.media. And if you're even new to Emby, you need to set up your own Emby server before, which is easy and takes just a few minutes ideally, and you get all the information for that at https Emby.media. Let's start by taking a peek at the new Windows application for the Windows Media Center UI. As mentioned before, there's a new Windows application, a new Emby client for Windows in the works. It's meant to go into beta soon, and the Windows Media Center UI app for Windows is based on that. And I'm going to start it now. You know the animation probably. On the technical side, it's an entirely new, different animation, but why should you care? It's pretty much the same at the inside, but there are differences regarding the outer parts of the app. What we can see is the application frame is using the acrylic material. The acrylic material is a translucent material with a blur effect, and that's the closest possible to how Windows Media Center was looking on Windows 7. It has a rather large border, and you can see the background shining through the corners around it, like in many of the new Windows applications these days, including the Edge browser, or at least the latest beta versions of the Edge browser. But there's also something about the content inside. When looking at the Windows Media Center UI in general, there's always one thing that has bugged me about the appearance that is based on the original visual assets, bitmaps of Windows Media Center. And the problem is that Windows Media Center has been built quite a while ago, and at that time there was no thinking about HDR or 4K displays, and as such all the artwork included is of rather low resolution, just enough to satisfy the requirements that existed at that time. And even though the modern browsers are able to scale up the assets in quite a good way, there's still sometimes the impression that the UI looks somewhat blurry. For HD screens in the 1920 by 1080 pixels format, I think it's almost good enough. But when it comes to 4K screens, we get a different picture. On those screens, the blurriness of certain UI elements of the Windows Media Center UI is clearly noticeable and makes a degraded impression. So what could be done about that? Now, for decades, there has been one predominant paradigm in image processing with regards to upscaling, and that is when you're scaling up, you always have the problem that you cannot create information or recreate or restore information that is just not there. So when you scale up, you can sharpen the picture a bit afterwards, but this usually creates just much worse results as when doing nothing and sticking with the blurred results. But luckily, times have changed and this paradigm might be no longer true, or at least no longer true in the sense like it has been true for all the time before. And what I'm talking about here is, of course, AI. And AI is a lot more than just those large language model conversational agents, which are never tired of spitting out related or unrelated information but becoming hesitant and lazy when they are supposed to do some actual work. No, there are many other fields where AI-based solutions can provide results which haven't been possible to achieve using conventional algorithms. And one of those fields is AI-based upscaling. AI-based upscaling can produce results which would have been impossible or even unthinkable at earlier times. And that made me think that it might be worth looking into this to see what can be achieved with AI-based upscaling regarding the Windows Media Center UI image assets. So let's take a look at how this works. I'm not going to name the tool because we are not a commercial or advertising channel, but this is an AI-based upscaling tool, and I've preloaded a few of the Windows Media Center image assets, and I've also pre-configured the upscaling. What you can see right here is the original image, and now I can wipe back and forth between original and upscaled, and you see the upscaled image is quite okay. It has a few glitches at the border, but when we look closer at the original image, you can see that those glitches already exist in the original image. That's probably because they did some scaling without having enough space at the borders or something like that, and that can always cause problems. Now let's look at a button. This is one of the play control buttons, the original one and the upscaled one. Let's scale up the upscaled one to see this a little bit better. Original image and the upscaled version. The artifacts at the sides are there because the original image is cut off too close at the border. For the actual upscaling I had to add a 1 pixel border to the original images. And this is the standard button that you can see all over and everywhere in the UI. It looks a little bit different to the way you normally see it, and that's because it's half transparent and it has a different appearance depending on its background. So original, and this is the upscaled version. Let's upscale the upscaled result a bit, and I think these are pretty impressive results. This would have never been possible before. Another example here. The back button, original and upscaled. And I think pretty good job AI. Or this one. Or look at this one. And this one. So that's how the upscaling process looked like. And now let's get back to the application and take a look at the effect. I think we all know that upscaling images has the effect that the resulting images are larger. And not only visually larger, they take more space on disk. And they require higher resources for processing, like, for example, in the browser engine, which is driving our UI. For that reason, I haven't enabled the high-def view by default for now, but instead I made it switchable, because I want you guys, users of the Windows Media Center UI apps and web app, to test and report your experience, especially with regards to performance, when using the high-def version of the UI, because I'm not sure at this point about the impact that this may have on the actual experience in different clients. There are two ways to switch between the regular appearance and the high-def appearance. If you have a keyboard connected, then you can press the F4 key, the function key 4. And for those of you who don't have a keyboard connected, there's also a new menu option in the last row of the start menu, which is named Toggle Ultra High Def UI. So now let's try that. And one thing you can see is there are slightly different colors on the background. That's because the background animation elements have been upscaled as well. And for upscaling them, I had converted them to 16-bit colors to provide smoother transitions, smoother gradients, because those blue tones are all relatively close together, and with 8 bits per color channel, it's not possible to represent all those fine nuances in the gradients. And during that process, the blue colors got a little darker. Let me switch again. This is the regular appearance. And this is the high def version. Now I know this doesn't look really groundbreaking. When we look at the focused menu element, we can see that the borders are getting a little bit sharper, a little bit more clearly defined, but actually not much more. When you look here, in that case, the difference can be seen a little bit better. Or let's look here. And the tile we've just seen in the upscaling tool. But all in all, probably not really that groundbreaking difference. And that brings us back to what I said originally. The quality of the images is still quite acceptable for Full HD, but where it really makes a difference is when you're on 4K displays. Now I've switched the screen recording to a 4K screen, and now let's switch again, looking closely at the images in that resolution, and you see the difference is much bigger. Let's look a little bit further and maybe play something. When we look at the buttons, for example, then you can see that it makes quite a difference. And let's just play. Now I'm going to pause because we're not interested in seeing the video. So what you're seeing at this time is still the regular version. And it's really not that bad. It's a testimonial for the good upscaling implemented in browsers these days. But when I switch to HD mode, we can see that the buttons are crisp and sharp and all the blurriness is gone. To get a better impression of the dimensions of these images, I'm going to take a screenshot of this and a screenshot of the regular version. So here once again for comparison in an image editing application, this is the regular mode. Now we're making a little bit of space and magically remove the background. And when you see this little button, that's the original size of the actual button from the Windows Media Center artwork. And when we compare the browser upscaling to the upscaling in the image editor, you can see that the browsers are doing a really good job in upscaling these days. But of course, that's still nothing when we compare it to the AI upscale results. That's the AI upscaling. So all in all, it doesn't make a big difference on regular HD screens, but on 4K displays, it removes all the blurriness from the appearance, and that's why I think it's been worth the effort. Now, just in parallel to the release of this Emby show episode, a new version of the Windows Media Center UI has been released. So I'd like to ask you to check out the new Ultra High Def mode in this new release. Please check out the Ultra High Def mode and let me know whether you see any visual glitches or issues, especially if there are any kind of performance problems, because I'd like to switch completely to the new High Def imagery, unless it would cause any trouble. This is not just for people having 4K screens, even more for those with low profile devices and HD screens, because those are the ones for which I need to know whether it still works, whether it's all going well and smooth, or whether we need to continue to deliver two different kind of versions of UI imagery. This was the first part of our Windows Media Center UI Refresh double episode. Episode number 2 in the Beta Flash series. If you like, you can continue watching the second part right away. It's available already. Also available is the new release of the Windows Media Center UI with the Ultra HD UI included, so you can check it out right now. We're looking forward to your feedback and comments, either here on YouTube or in the Emby forums. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Say thanks for watching and goodbye.